Steinmeier Formula, to put it simply, is about who is controlling the eastern Ukraine, the currently occupied territories, when elections take place. According to Steinmeier's formula, that should be Russia. According to Ukraine's position, that should be Ukraine. So debate is mostly about this. But this is a part of a broader debate. The broader debate is about the price, because any option we pick has a price, either to leave the conflict as it is, to freeze it, or to resolve it. All three options have some price attached, and Ukrainians, as it seems, don't want to pay. We want peace, but we don't want to pay for it. And so far, this is the main reason of all political struggle, of all emotional reactions from Ukrainian politicians at various levels. Today they are reflected in debates around Steinmeier Formula. Tomorrow they may be reflected in, for instance, ceasefire. Whether it is a victory or a defeat, we don't have clear criteria actually for a victory. What do we understand by victory? And my last point is that we, for some reason, believe that time is playing on our side, which is not necessarily the case. The basic problem, the most fundamental one, is that Russia's negotiating positions are much stronger than ours. And that leaves them space for maneuver, and that leaves them pretty easy to push forward any conditions they'd like and then just wait. That is something we cannot afford, and President Zelensky can hardly afford because of his promises before the elections. He made a trap, let's put it like this, for himself by promising peace. And now Russians have time on their side. They can wait, while Zelensky cannot. And when Minister Prystaiko says about half a year or 1 year that we have before we should get some result, this is also a sign, or not so much a sign of a weakness, but this is something which can be used against Ukraine as a leverage tool during the negotiations, because Russians do not have this time pressure. We do have now. And also, we are talking a lot about red lines. We are constantly pressing President Zelensky that he should draw some red lines in order not to cross them. And from different political sides, political forces and perspectives, these lines are pretty different. If we put all of them on the map, then he will not have any space for negotiations. He will have to stick to the previous, the safest position, which has been taken by President Poroshenko, that we are fighting against Russians and only will accept the peace on our conditions, which is not attainable at the moment.
So what do you think this discussion about the red lines, somebody said like that better should be the red flags instead of the red lines, but what would you maybe explain also, how do you think it's seen in the society? It's really politicized, but how to deal with that? What do you think that should be done that that this discussion doesn't harm the process itself? Usually those discussions anyway are the obstacles for the whole process.
It can harm the process in many different ways. We are in a very delicate situation. When any moves towards resolving or even freezing the conflict, we'll see the harsh critics from all sides. In theory, these critics are called spoilers, those who are not interested in the resolution of a conflict, they are not satisfied with the conditions, and they will constantly press politically the president and the team. So in my view, we should give more freedom to the president and his team in order to consolidate the position. We also should give them more time in order not to make any hasty decisions which could result in mistakes. And we also should understand that resolving the conflict in Donbas is a part of a much broader problem, which is our vision of future relations with Russia, a topic about which almost nobody is talking seriously. Okay, we declared Russia to be a foe or even an aggressor, a state against which we are fighting a war. But let's say what is the most desirable stance of our relations with Russia in, let's say, 5 or 10 years or 15 years? Are we ready to pay the price for a non-frozen conflict, which continues like today, when shellings are taking place every day and people got killed? Are we ready to pay the price for a frozen conflict like the one we already have in Transnistria, lasting for more than 25 years? So this debate should precede actually implementation of any strategy of conflict resolution in Donbas. So in my view, the last point which Zelensky team needs from expert society, from civil society, from political forces, is to help him shape this debate about what kind of Russia we are willing to have in the future. and what will be the model of Ukraine's coexistence with our aggressive and very, I would say, risky neighbor.
So the meeting in the Normandy Forum, but on the level of this head of states, was planned, even was discussed. Minister Prystaiko mentioned that it was planned for even September. Now it might be moved to the mid of October, maybe later. The condition of Russia, what we understand, is that there would be some documents written in the end of those negotiations. That would be the first of this kind of meeting since the last 3 years. What you also would say are the major obstacles, concerns, risks as well? Because at the same time, sooner or later, this meeting should have happened. Everybody would say you need to be prepared. But we understand that it's this preparation, does it really matter? This is a 2 months preparation, 3 months preparation, 4 months preparation. There is something else. It's more about the relations between the leaders.
Let me, for a moment, try to feel myself in Russia's shoes and try to see to understand Russia's perspective, how they see things. In my view, what they believe in is that the key to the decision to hold the next Normandy summit is in the Kremlin's hand. Actually, it depends on the position of Vladimir Putin, whether it will take place at all. And they can wait, again, they can wait for another 3 years and then for more 3 years. This is the highest price is not paid by Russia for this conflict. They have also some reservations. It seems like they do not trust Ukrainian administration, be it previous one or the current one. So they try to see or to test how credible Ukrainian promises are. Why it was important to have this exchange of detained persons. Not only because of emotional part, but also because it is an important first step in further negotiations. It helps build minimal trust for further concessions. Otherwise, each side trapped in security dilemma does not feel it is ready to make concessions first because of a fear of the other, what other party will do. This is crucial to any successful attempt to establish a ceasefire. So the logic of the Kremlin is that, okay, we shall start with the prisoners exchange, then we'll probably proceed to ceasefire, but we will require concessions, promises from Ukrainian side, and deliberation. I mean, they deliver the promises. And so far this has been the most critical issue, because in the Kremlin's view, Ukrainian president, previous one, has not always fulfilled what it promised. We can even see it from the interpretation of the Minsk Protocol by Moscow. Now what they want is that they consider Minsk Protocol to be fine. So they see that this as a plan for resolving the conflict, and they are really ready to give Donbas away to Ukraine, but under certain conditions, under the Minsk Protocol in their interpretation. So what they will try to do is to bring us closer to their understanding of Minsk Protocol. We should have had this discussion long ago, whether we actually are ready to pay this price, whether Ukraine is really ready to fulfill the Minsk Protocol in Russian's edition, meaning that we give autonomy to Donbas, we adopt the law on amnesty, on special status, we hold elections, and then at the end we get the control of the border and Russian troops leaving Donbas. This is what Russians will be insisting on. And regardless any formulas, no matter whose, and regardless actually the number of meetings in the Normandy format, whether the first one will take place in October, in November, or the next year, this will be the essence of their negotiation position. And we have to understand that we'll have to deal with this. We will not be able to constantly trick Russians around or somehow to play with these formulations and things like. We'll have to approach the essence of negotiations over Donbas, and that will be hard.